Right, hey guys, how we doing? Back on another video from Clyde, Bleach related. Obviously, he is the man when it comes to the Bleach stuff, and this is how Bleach should have ended. Interesting, because it was a bit of a weird one. The whole way that went with the Quincy's and Yuach Bach, however his name is, and all that, and all the different abilities they had and stuff. Quite weird, but it's interesting to see how Clyde thinks it should have ended. So let's see what he changes, let's see what's different.
As the Bleach manga came to its end around August of 2016, it was made very apparent to us that the series was starting to accelerate in pacing way beyond how it was steadily progressing through the 1000-year Blood War.
Yeah.
Once Ichigo returned from the Soul Palace, many things started kicking off. Characters that we had not seen in a long time were reintroduced into the story.
Just randomly coming back, yeah.
Set in motion by the villains, and lots of large-scale war-ending fights started to happen. We came to learn that Mr. Kubo was actually dealing with a lot of health-related issues as the series came to its end.
Did not realise.
A lot of misinformation has actually been spread about his situation for around the past 5 years, as many people think Kubo and Shonen Jump had a genuinely hateful relationship where Shonen Jump were trying to jeopardize Bleach in every way possible. Now, not everything between them was necessarily bad, but
not as bad as it's been made out.
With editorial staff, they actually extended things like making the Karakura Town battles with the Arrancar way longer than Mr. Kubo intended them to be. And this explains why there is a lot of fights that could have been skipped, or they could have just extended more interesting battles like Stark and Halliwell's battles. Keep in mind, these were issues that were actually years before the war arc even happened, or any sort of decline in popularity when it comes to Bleach. This also does seem to be the case when it comes to the Bleach Hellverse movie, because as a lot of you guys know, Mr. Kubo has said on record that the movie actually did stray away from a lot of his ideas.
Oh, right, okay.
He did say in the quote that he feels like he didn't do enough to deserve being listed in the movie's credits. That being said, the movie does seem to be more so Shonen Jump and Studio Period's making and writing, rather than entirely his product. Keep in mind, these were issues that were actually years before the war arc had even happened in the manga, or any sort of...
So there were problems already.
To this day, though, I will never understand why Bleach was seen as a quote-unquote dead series in 2016, when, although it was becoming one of the oldest series in the magazine,
but it was still doing well.
For 4 years to help its growth, along with no video games for 5+ years before that, it was still selling better than Black Clover at the time, which Shonen Jump were really pushing, as this was around the time where the new wave of these newer series were starting to become the more common faces seen on the front cover of Weekly Shonen Jump and their obvious future investments. While counting their chickens before they had even hatched, they didn't realize they had a golden goose sitting in the pen the entire time. Something they now realize. Another thing we know with Mr. Kubo is that the editor-in-chief before the current one seems to not care about Bleach that much, and part of the reason why Bleach has had a huge
why have someone work on it then if they don't really care about it?
When it should have returned in an anime form years ago is thanks to the new editor-in-chief who sees Bleach's popularity and actually has a lot of passion for the series to do well. This individual, also known as Hiroyuki Nakano, even went so far that he told us not to give up on Bleach and essentially said it would come back if we show enough support for the series. Mr. Nakano also promised us that the anime will be treated very well during its production. We've already seen how good Burn the Witch looks, and that was
Burn the Witch was class. I really liked those 3 parts, man. That was really good.
The thing they had for that series was that it was the second series from a famous mangaka, and it essentially rode off of the success.
I did really enjoy those 3 episodes, man. That was class. It did just throw you in.
Fantastic and a great gamble, as it is getting way more material than originally planned.
Cool.
And it shows us
want
that
more.
if they treated Burn the Witch's manga and anime this well, just imagine how
what they're going to do with Bleach.
when they finally animate the war arc. I'm honestly very hyped.
I can't wait to see it, like.
All of that stuff aside, though, the main reason Bleach's manga did actually end was more to do with Mr. Kubo's inability to put out consistent chapters, as although he rarely took weeks off in his career, he said that the final 5 years of the manga were some of the most taxing for him physically. As
it is a lot of hard work, isn't it? Putting stuff out weekly, man. It's like, ugh.
You gotta keep in mind, Mangaka basically works 16-hour days non-stop every day of the week without any breaks. Like, they don't even take Sundays off.
God.
And some of them, like Mr. Kubo, Ichiro Oda, Masashi Kishimoto,
that's crazy.
They all did that for around 15 years alongside Mr. Kubo.
My God, imagine.
Oda right now is still going 20+ years strong with One Piece. What sucks
mate, that's mental.
is that I honestly just wish he took a year or two off, as Yoshihiro Togashi, the creator of Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x
Hunter,
Hunter,
man.
has been doing this so much that it has become a meme.
It is a meme, isn't it, like?
Now, no hate towards Togashi, as he has genuine reasoning for his hiatuses. It does, however, suck that Mr. Kubo couldn't or didn't choose to do the same.
Yeah.
I would have loved it.
Hunter x Hunter's very popular. It does take big breaks, doesn't it?
Chapters every like 3 or so months, because then he could take as much time as he wants. He could work shorter shifts, and he could actually do stuff that he wants to do in his personal life while improving his health. And he could also draw the manga even better than when it was weekly, as he himself said that he is usually just happy to get chapters.
Because the art style did kind of dip, so you look at the detail at the opening first few like chapters of Bleach to like what we've got near the end.
There's a reason that god tier artists like Yusuke Murata, the man who draws One Punch Man, actually has a lot of respect for Mr. Kubo. He is a good artist, and it sucks that he isn't and hasn't really been able to show us the full potential of his artistic ability. Another comment Mr. Kubo made years ago too was that he wishes he could travel more, so having these chapters every 3 months means he could actually be
Go out and do stuff, yeah.
On top of not rushing.
And if he himself is feeling good, then imagine how the work's going to be. He'll want to work
now,
on
there
it.
was a comment by Mr. Kubo that said that the way that the manga ended was how he intended for it to actually end, but I honestly believe we got a half-cooked version of his ideal ending, as it contradicts the pacing issues, the health problems which apparently led to the series' quick end. And there was even a comment made by Masashi Kishimoto where he said the exact same thing too about Naruto and its end. I don't want to go full conspiracy tinfoil hat mode, but this seems to be a bit of a mark.
They made the frogs go.
As it's very obvious that Naruto had a very weird ending.
That was a very weird ending, yeah.
And Madara's terrible anticlimactic defeat. But in both Bleach and Naruto, they made sure to quickly pair everyone together in the final chapters for the fans who are obsessed with shippings, and they introduced children from both casts of each series to open a door to a spin-off or a sequel to
potential sequels,
showing me that the endings of both of these series are very suspect, to say the very least. Ever since Dragon Ball Z did so well as a sequel to Dragon Ball, it's no surprise they'd want to continue these series as much as possible. It makes complete business sense. For this video, I want to actually make this a cool sort of community video, so let me know in the comments what you disliked about the end of Bleach. Did you think the war arc was rushed? What would you have changed personally? Is there just anything at all that you want to say about the final arc? Let me know in the comments below. I will be reading all of the comments for this video. I don't care if there's like 2,000 comments, I'll go through them, I'll give them a read. I'll chuck a few love hearts in the comments if I think they're funny or I think you have something good to add. I've done that plenty of times before. Yeah, leave your comment, I'm actually going to read it. Also, if you're a big fan of Bleach, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and please
the link to the original video will be in the description, and make sure you're subbed to it's card.
For everybody. It's linked below. One thing that is extremely noticeable, as I partly mentioned it earlier, is that Bleach's manga starts speeding up a lot when Lily Barrow fights Shunsui, Grimmjow and Ichigo head into battle along with the Fullbringers, and Miracle fights Byakuya, Toshiro, and Kenpachi. When I was reading the series weekly as it was coming out, I remember thinking to myself, yep, that's it, the manga is being rushed when Bark snapped his fingers and used the Oshvalen
to just take everyone's powers.
The powers from the other Quincy's, and did not assist Mr. Lily Barrow at all.
Yeah.
Understandably, most of the Quincy's were overpowered, like, seriously
yeah, they really were. Some of the stuff they could do was ridiculous, man.
Lily Barrow could shoot through anything, was intangible, could teleport and move at light speed, had another super overpowered ability in his base form that he used against Shunsui, and the Miracle was this Thor-looking angel
and just couldn't die. He just kept stronger every time.
And was basically immortal. Bankai Kenpachi. Just think about that for a second.
Bankai Kenpachi
couldn't defeat that monster, and then it proceeded to go into a second Volstagg.
Yeah, it had a different form, didn't it?
Dwarfed the original form that they couldn't defeat, even as a group.
It was ridiculous.
Yu Bark was becoming overly infatuated with power and made irrational decisions, but he literally threw his entire game plan out the window and did some weird suicide mission against everyone at the end by himself. If he used the Oshvalen Light to assist the Miracle, Lily Barrow, and Hushvolt, who were conflicted about following him, he would have such overpowered teammates assisting him that it would have been almost impossible to stop him, even more than it already was. Imagine that final battle with Yu Bark versus Aizen and Ichigo and Renji. But the Miracle, Lily Barrow, and Hushvolt are there assisting him. Even with
My
every other
God.
Shinigami and
My
Aizen there,
God.
that situation is horrible for them.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like, Yhwach had all that potential and all the chips on his side of the table, but
He
he
just
just
throws
like,
them away.
snaps his fingers and gets rid of it all.
Yeah, it
just
doesn't make
zero
sense. Yeah, when you think about it,
A few
yeah.
other issues I had was that he never even used Yamamoto's Bankai. I know in the battle with Ichibei that made things difficult, but this was something hyped up since the start of the war,
Yeah.
as those pendants were a huge plot point of the arc. And to see the big boss himself not use the one that he stole, especially when it was Yamamoto's, is honestly
Big deal.
such a letdown. Although Grimmjow was brought back into the story,
I thought it was
he was
cool.
sort of barely there, and his battle was actually with a Quincy that was terrible for his fighting style. He
Just
could have
snuck in and
easily
took his
been
heart out,
matched
though,
up with
didn't
a
he?
character like Baz B, you know, someone that sort of fights like he does, and there would have been hellish talk within the fight, and it would have actually been hype as hell.
Yeah, that would have been
toe-to-toe.
fun.
I mean, there was always comparisons between him and Baz B during that arc anyway, so like, why not have them fight? The personalities are really interesting. I did enjoy that he was willing to work as a team and help Urahara. That was honestly a cool and interesting interaction. But if it were up to me, I would have introduced Grimmjow during the start of the war arc when we first seen him appear, and have him follow Ichigo through the Garganta after he saved Urahara.
That would have been cool. Yeah, I give you
By
that.
having Grimmjow be a part of the war arc from the start, you would have he and Ichigo develop more as rivals.
Yes.
Grimmjow would be eager to pursue the Quincy for trashing Hueco Mundo. He could have gone with Ichigo to the Soul Palace with Renji,
Oh,
as
mate.
he would have found Ichigo almost dead after being defeated by Yhwach and Harshvold, which would have been cool for a couple of reasons, because we would have seen Grimmjow interact with Renji, we would have seen the other Shinigami ask who the hell is Grimmjow,
Yeah, who is he?
why
Yeah, yeah.
Sparta in the Soul Society. We would have also seen a bit of like chemistry where Grimmjow would have sort of said to Ichigo like, hey, get up, why are you being such a bitch, you know, just
Yeah.
sort of like the similar interaction
Like,
that they had at the end
caring
of the
but
third
not
fight,
wanting to show he
the
cares
balls
kind of
reverse
thing.
down, Grimmjow's the one picking up Ichigo instead. We could also see Grimmjow interact with Renji, which would have been an interesting clash of personalities.
Yes.
Because what I could see happening is Renji saying something to himself like, wait, Ichigo fought this guy 3 different times? That's insane. And one of the benefits to having Grimmjow go with Ichigo to the Soul Palace is that he would be constantly giving him a lot of crap to get stronger and train harder. And in
He would
general,
push him,
trying
wouldn't he?
to
He would
motivate
actually help
Ichigo as much
pushing
as
him to get
possible,
stronger
even
so he
if
could have a
it's in
good fight with
negative
him.
way. There would also be chapters where Grimmjow and Renji would interact by themselves a lot, as this would take place when Ichigo speaks to his father and learns about his mother when Nimaya says he failed. Another cool plot point for this would be that this would allow Grimmjow to learn how to attain a second release form, as it would add more lore to his powers
Oh, well, yeah.
and the other Zero Division members. And this would help solidify Grimmjow as a top tier threat, because most people who don't understand power scaling and thought Grimmjow was weak when he appeared in the war would finally realize he is actually a top tier character in regards to power, along with his time skip power up.
Oh, mate.
I've said this before in previous videos, but Mr. Kubo is definitely a master at wasting really cool characters
Yeah.
he creates. There was a lot of potential for Grimmjow that was honestly wasted.
Just thrown away, man.
The timing of him being brought back at the start of the arc, it had a huge door open to him to do some cool stuff with Grimmjow that just never happened. Another thing with Grimmjow that was never even followed up on was, what the fuck was his deal with Urahara? Because judging by his interaction with Ichigo, the only thing that I can think of is them fighting for a 4th time, and Urahara, aka Mr. Don King over here, would have promised that he can set up this fight, and Grimmjow, being a man who surprisingly honors his deals, would have happily agreed. If I was to change some major flaws in the war arc after the Grimmjow point I just made, it would definitely be the following. 100% kill off Byakuya Kuchiki. I actually made an entire video dedicated
He should have
to
died.
this subject, so I won't talk about that too
Yeah,
much.
that's a good video.
But basically,
He should have
Byakuya's
stayed dead.
death would have
Yeah.
given Renji development, as he would have had genuine hatred for the Quincy,
Yeah.
other than, you know, just being angry at them for destroying the Soul
Yeah,
Society.
like, you're the bad guys, I'm meant to be mad at you anyway.
He frankly did not even know on a personal level. It would bother him a lot, as he would never be able to surpass Byakuya in an
Yeah,
actual
now he can't
battle.
actually do it, yeah.
A huge character plot point during the Soul Society arc for him, and by having Rukia battle Asnot on her own, she would use her faulty yet amazing new Bankai to slay him, which would avenge Byakuya, and Renji would come in at the very end to tell her that Byakuya would have been proud of her growth,
Yeah.
as she always wanted Byakuya's approval. By doing this, it makes Bleach chapter 512 him laying down his pride while being a man towards Ichigo.
So
and actually
much
asking for
cooler.
help. It continues to respect the way that amazing chapter was executed,
Yep.
and it also helps strengthen the bond between Renji and Rukia, as their moment together at the end of the battle with Asnod would be very meaningful. This would then help lead into the pairings in the final chapter and make them feel more natural.
Yes, it doesn't feel forced, yeah.
To us readers, their relationship was built on nothing but them knowing each other for a very long time.
Yeah, it did seem that way, yeah.
Their first interactions in the manga were actually quite negative, and then it changes in the Soul Society arc, and then changes again later on in the story.
Yeah, it's like, it's not natural the way that these things progressed.
Yeah, once again, I highly suggest watching my video on Byakuya.
It's good.
Trust me, I am a fan of Byakuya, but him dying would have had a lot of benefits to the series, especially the war arc, and it is a war, so you gotta keep things brutal. You know, his
it's like in Destiny. I play Destiny, and spoilers, big huge character called K gets killed off, and they ain't bringing him back, and that was great, that was brilliant, and still to this day, like a year later, everyone still talks about it.
Like, the point of a war, especially a war arc, is that it's ruthless. Like, the way that the death was executed was great because he was hopeless. He was ripped apart, he couldn't even use his sword, and then he has to beg the main character Ichigo for help, showing that he has true respect for Ichigo, and he's willing to put his pride on the ground
Save Soul
the
Society.
Soul Society. Bit of a silly argument, but yeah, I highly suggest, once again, watching my Byakuya video. Another big thing is that when Ryukin and Isshin appear, have Ryukin go assist Uryu against Hushvolth. This would be great for two reasons. Ryukin's conversations with Hushvolth would be extremely fascinating, as their views on the Quincy are very different, and Hushvolth is, without a doubt, the most loyal to the Quincy of them all. Their battle and interactions would be amazing, especially because we could see what powers Ryukin has, considering he is from a special Quincy family.
Yeah, we never saw anything
like, I believe his abilities would be absolutely insane, considering we don't even know what they do, but he just gives me the vibe of a very overpowered character.
Yeah, like he comes across like he has like something going on, doesn't he? Yeah.
The second benefit to having Ryukin join that battle would be that we could see some character development between Uryu and his father, along with us.
Well, yeah, because they didn't really do much, like, that way either, yeah. The characters never got, like, much, like, development, like...
Or seeing Ryukin actually open up towards Uryu more and be a little bit more human would seriously do wonders for both of their characters, as we don't really know too much about Ryukin's real views of the Quincy, and he definitely hasn't ever explained Uryu's childhood or his mother's situation to him. Once again, just like Ryukin's one of them really interesting characters that I wish Kubo had have shown more of.
Again, a wasted character, yeah.
Aesthetic to him, and he just seems really interesting. The potential of a great fight and good storytelling was definitely missed there. I really do wonder what Ryukin could do in battle, especially against someone like Hushvolth. Like, does he stack up to top tier Quincy's like that? Who knows? Another
we'll
big
never
thing
know.
I would have definitely fleshed out is having Isshin participate in the war like Ryukin would have. Isshin could have gone to fight the Miracle with Toshido, Byakuya, and Kenpachi. The reason for this is that he actually knows all of them, especially Byakuya and Toshido, so he could catch up with them, give us some cool lore and dialogues between them, plus we could finally see what Isshin's hyped up Bankai can do.
Oh mate, that would have been cool.
With the Miracle, Mr. Kubo could literally make the power of his Bankai be a plot point to defeat the Miracle.
That would be cool.
The ability is actually super hacks, or it destroys things in a different way than just a normal attack. I mean, just something that simple, you know, maybe it just like existence erases people with its flames even more intensely than say like a Quincy arrow or something you can do. You know, just something cool like that.
Something cool.
Because people did want to see it. Once again, another wasted opportunity. No Bankai reveal, no cool interaction with characters that he hasn't spoken to in around 20-ish years, and no goddamn silver arrow. That arrow was beyond corny. I would actually love to see some statistic on how many people dropped Bleach when that thing was whipped out, because goddamn, that was really.
It's out of nowhere, wasn't it?
If you defend the silver arrow or think that it's cool or in any regard good storytelling, yeah, you kind of got really bad taste, I'm sorry.
Oh damn, take that.
For the final battle of the war arc, I would have made major changes.
Yeah, we go.
The final battle with Yuha Bark would have definitely been over 10 chapters long. I mean, Ichibei versus Yuha Bark was around this long, and it made that fight absolutely chatty as hell. Plus, this being the final major battle of the arc would help make this a much bigger deal, because it's ending the series with a huge bang.
Yeah,
a stereotypical
needs to go out with a bang.
Hype shonen battle, manga battle, you know, like the sort of how they do things in that magazine.
Yeah.
I would definitely make Aizen a bigger plot device in the fight.
Definitely.
As although Yuha Bark is seemingly too powerful and hacks to be defeated normally, having Aizen there fixes this issue, as he could be defeated correctly. Ever since Yuha Bark visited Aizen in the Mugen, he has been affected by Kyoko Soigetsu, meaning Aizen would do what he did in the battle and keep using his hypnosis to confuse Yhwach and
which
thus
would be
giving
sick.
opportunities for him to be damaged.
Yes.
I would make it so that as the fight continues over the course of these 10 plus chapters, other characters start to join the battle and assist them. Ryukin and Uryu would come to help. Grimmjow and Nell would come to defend Waco Mundo after dealing with Asuka Knuckly.
That'd be so cool.
Although Urahara might be out of the battle because, you know, he'd be damaged, right? At least they would be able to turn up because they didn't really take any damage from what's been implied. Like, Grimmjow was poisoned for a short period, but by going into his resurrection and then having Nell there to save him, he should be okay.
Should be alright, yeah, healing
still
and that.
is alive right now in the story, so I don't see why that would be an issue. The remaining Shinigami and captains would come too. Ishin could actually arrive in the battle too after helping defeat the Miracle with Byakuya, Toshiro, and Kenpachi. This would actually give us the opportunity to see Ishin talk a lot of smack to Yhwach for taking Misaki from him.
That'd be cool.
And would assist Ichigo when he is falling into despair. Grimmjow and Ichigo could link up some cool attacks along with Grimmjow having dialogue with Aizen post the fall.
Yeah, that'd be sick. A good interaction there.
This huge final battle where it's everybody fighting to essentially save the universe. Uryu and Aizen, with their extremely hacked powers, would be used in the battle to defeat Yhwach instead of the arrow, and then Ichigo finishes the fight with his iconic final slash.
Yeah,
it's
man.
even implied Uryu is meant to be the successor of Yhwach, and his power is almost the perfect counter to Yhwach, along with Aizen already having Yhwach in checkmate since their first ever conversation.
Which is sick.
During
That'd be so cool.
Grimmjow
Grimmjow and Aizen talking, that'd be like, whoa, tense.
Yhwach even makes a comment about Aizen messing with his perception of time after defeating Yamamoto and Ichigo, so we know that he has been under Kyokusei Getsu all the way back then. Also, where was Ichigo's Bankai ability? He finally has a real Zanpakuto and his real Shinigami powers, but all it does is give us his original Shikai Butcher Blade, which Yhwach was sh**ing his pants about the power and purposely broke the sword twice. Whatever power that is, it's hacks as f***. Although I personally don't care too much about the Fullbringers, they could have easily been given a lot more spotlight in the war arc, other than, you know, getting a few characters to the Soul Palace and repairing Ichigo's blade. Of course, those things could still take place, they were underutilized nonetheless.
Yeah.
To top it all off, once the war arc is finished, we would then get to see Ichigo versus Grimmjow round 4.
Yes.
After, say, a time skip of like a month or two, and if Kubo still wants to pair everyone together, then introduce a second generation of the series. He can do that without the series feeling rushed, and you can actually do that after Bleach is done. Just consider it an entirely separate series. You know, end it off with Shunsui chilling there, you know, sipping on some tea, narrating the story and stuff, and have a proper long drawn out ending. You know, it's fine if it ends that way, and then they go on to the kids of Ruki and Renji and Ichigo and so on in a separate series. Sort of handle it the Naruto way, but at the same time, just make sure that the original series gets completed the correct way, because I don't mind if there are spin-offs and there's extra stuff, just as long as the original series ends the way that it's supposed to. Hopefully, with Mr. Kubo working on the anime's return, the anime will be updated and changed.
Oh, some changes would be cool.
We could have the Yamamoto backstory extended. We'd learn more about the original Rogue Gotei 13, made from killers and random strong Shinigami from the Rukon district. We can see the original war filled with Quincy's and Shinigami we've never even seen before. Like, I know that he did have somewhat of a backstory.
They're going to be good videos as well. I hope Clyde does that. You know, if they do changes, like what's actually different. You know, like Anime News does cut content videos. Like Clyde do that for like the anime if there are changes and that.
You could even go further into Komamura's backstory and show why he respects Yamamoto so much. I mean, obviously we do know the answer for the most part, but going further into it and his conflict with vengeance would be amazing depth to his character. Also, the lack of explanation about Aizen's views of how the Soul King operates and the shadiness of the Soul Society and the connection between Ichigo and the Soul King is such interesting lore that I would have loved to read, but
see it.
Never really happened.
Yeah.
I mean, when the anime comes back, if they do that sort of stuff, like all the things I mentioned, except for obviously the fights, because that'll take place during the normal part of the story, right? But if they do those like backstory and little, you know, lore things here and there in the same style as, say, the Turn Back the Pendulum arc in the anime, you have yourself the perfect version of Bleach.
Cool.
And to top it all off, adapt the novels into episodes once the war arc has properly completed and been done and being executed the correct way like this. There is so much potential.
Well, that was cool. That was some really interesting thoughts on how to change things around. I like it. The whole thing with Grimmjow and that. As soon as he said Eisen and Grimmjow talking, I was just like, yo! And then Eisen helping with the fight and that, because he's under his like hypnosis and stuff. Some really, really good ideas, and it's interesting to see whether the anime will make changes from the manga, but I guess we have to wait and find out and see. But yeah, what did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave comments down below, let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys. It's all you guys next time.